Hi everyone, welcome to episode 7 of season 2 of elle-TV. Today I am filming from the central area that is called Caixa de Sodré. I've mentioned in a couple of my videos, it's kind of ground zero for transportation in Lisbon. The ferry terminal is here, the main train station is here, but I am filming here in particular today because just off the side of the video is the Time Out Market, which is you can't really see it from here, but it's the awnings there on the left. There is a huge farmers market on the inside that happens during the week, and there's also essentially a gourmet food hall. And then this little park, the reason I'm here is because I'm standing in front of one of the many kiosks in Lisbon. You can see the little red thing behind me. They're all throughout the city, and they are great places to sit and people watch and eat and drink outside, or if the World Cup is on, to watch games. Lisbon, there is a very lovely cafe culture, but it's an outside culture, kiosk culture. So be sure to stop by and have a drink and relax in an unhurried fashion in Lisbon. For much of this season, I've been focusing on interviewing and strategies and tips for conducting informational and other types of interviews. This episode is no different, just in that I want to focus on 3 specific common mistakes that people make when interviewing, or 3 things to watch out for. We don't have to call them mistakes, but 3 things to watch out for when you're interviewing if you want to have the best chance of getting that job that you want. So, common mistake number 1, common thing to look out for number 1 is that you need to know why you want the job. I am always amazed sitting on the other side of the table when we ask the question, and I'm not pointing to any specific employer, this has happened across employers, why do you want to work here? That question for some reason seems to stymie the most put together, the most eloquent of candidates. And I don't know why, but I'm here to tell you, you're going to get asked that question and you need to be prepared for it. And here's the tip. The thing that you don't want to say is, if you're interviewing in a great place like San Francisco or Paris or Rome or some other coveted city, you don't want to say, well, San Francisco's the best place ever. Well, of course it is. We're all here. That's not a compelling answer. It's true. Everybody knows it's true. But guess what? There are a million other jobs that you could be applying for in San Francisco. So that doesn't answer the question of why you want this specific job. So that question is, from the interviewer's perspective, designed to see how much homework you've done. How much homework have you done about the company that you say that you're dying to work for? If you can't answer the question of why you want to work here, it seems to indicate that you don't want it badly enough, or you're not invested enough in the company to have gone to the website the night before just to do a quick Google search of what the company is about, what are the main practice areas, who are the main people. You should Google everybody who is on your interview committee before you go in. I'm always impressed when candidates are able to say, well, Eleanor, I noticed that you specialize in da-da-da. I know that in some ways it's obvious and on the nose, but at the same time, it makes me as the interviewer feel loved. A little bit of love goes a long way when you're looking for a job from somebody else, right? And it makes me feel as if, oh, this person really cares enough to just do a modicum of research, okay? So that's tip number 1. Common interview mistake number 2 is not knowing why you, and not being able to articulate why you are the best fit for this particular job. And here is where I talked about it in the last episode. This is no time for modesty. This is not a time to be humble. I want you to think about this as the interviewer giving you an opportunity to shine, an opportunity to sell your best qualities to the world. Now, for those of you who struggle with this, because for any number of reasons, you struggle with singing your own praises. I had a friend recently who used this procedure that I thought was really amazing. What he did is he emailed all of his friends. He was also interviewing, and he emailed all of his friends and said, What are some of the qualities that you admire most about me? What are my strengths? And I have to tell you, as someone who received that email and someone who loves the person who sent it to me, I jumped. There are a million other emails that day that I ignored or deleted. I jumped at the chance to respond to that email and to list all of these characteristics and qualities about him. I remembered some stories that I shared with him about my favorite things about him, and he shared with me afterwards that it was so warm, it was touching for him to receive all of these messages of love and support and these stories that he hadn't even remembered, and it was just a really great exercise. He said he recommended it to everyone. One of these days I'm going to do it to my friends. I'm not interviewing, but I'm going to do it to my friends just to get a little bit of love myself. So I think that that's a great strategy. If you are struggling with coming up with positive qualities for yourself, ask the people that know you the best and write down all of those things and maybe bask in the love a little bit, and then use those things when you're asked this question on your next interview. Hopefully that's helpful. Number 3, a common interview mistake number 3 is not listening and not answering the question that was asked. You wouldn't believe how many people are guilty of this, and I understand why it happens. I think what is happening is that many people who are conscientious do their homework before going into an interview, and they've got this script of what they're going to say and how they're going to present themselves. And so that's good. It's good to be prepared, but sometimes having that script means that it's running through your head at all times, and it crowds out the actual questions that you're being asked. And so sometimes people will answer with just the script and not the actual question, which throws people like me, if I'm on the other side of the table, for a loop. I'm like, well, that wasn't the question that I asked. And if you're speaking to lawyers are particular persnickety. You're not going to be able to sidetrack them by spouting off a whole bunch of nonsense that's unrelated to the question that they asked. And in fact, it's going to annoy/piss them off if you don't circle around at some point to answer the question. So this is just a little tip to say you may be unconsciously distracting or turning off your interviewees by not listening to their questions and answering their questions. Now, there are strategies if you need to buy yourself a little bit of time because you've heard the question but you don't know how to answer the question. You can stall. You can say, that is a really good question. As I'm thinking here today, this is what I think now. And then, stall. Do whatever you need to do to give yourself a little bit of time, but make sure that you answer the question. And if there are multiple people firing questions at you, sometimes interviewers will they will rapid fire ask you questions, so you can't even keep track of all the questions that are being asked. So you just want to make sure that you get all of the questions answered. So what you can say is, I heard this question, I heard this question, and I heard this question. I'm going to tackle this one first, and then I will circle back to this other one, and then I will cover this third one in just a moment. So you can keep track for yourself, and you can let the people who've asked the question know that you value their question and that you plan to answer it, okay? So, and don't feel if you need to take notes or if you need to say to someone, I don't remember what the second or third part of your question was, don't feel afraid to ask that person, oh, do you mind? Because if they are at all self-aware, the interviewer will realize, oh wait, I just asked that person a 10-part question and that's not fair. I should probably repeat the question. So we're keeping it short this week. That's all I've got, but I hope that you find this helpful. Until next week. A little bit about common interview mistakes. I was almost taken out by some birds. The wildlife in Lisbon you can't handle.